I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and the elders of other communities who may be here today, both Wurundjeri, where I write and record here in Australia, and the Seminole in the United States, where we gather for worship. Thank you again for inviting me to speak today as you gather together in peace, truth, and love. While we are gathering in usual ways and speaking to each other in new circumstances, the joy of being a community present with each other is a blessing that breaks boundaries and brings us into new, more universal ways of being together. The hymns I have chosen today are decidedly Christian, but I bring them because they represent a diverse voice of many people, of many faiths, and many cultures coming together. Every year, our church here in Melbourne, Australia, the Melbourne Welsh Church, hosts a gathering of song called Gaman Fagani. The Welsh are great singers and songwriters, and choirs would meet in pubs and practice and try to out-sing each other, and new songs would be written and heard and shared and taken to other churches. They still compete in singing, and we bring the winners of these competitions in Wales to Australia every year as part of their prize. Our last Gaman Fagani occurred on St. David's Day, the day of their national saint, on March 1st, just before the world turned on its head. So for this reason, the multicultural aspect, the fact that people who were not just of Welsh origin or even Australian gather to sing and celebrate, and the delight in living and loving together that is so apparent in our guest conductor Dilwyn, makes these songs appropriate to go with my message of diversity in everything today. With humility and courage born of the Unitarian Universalist history, we are called to build beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings, and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this vision in our hearts and minds, we light our chalice.
Please turn to number 4, Calon Lan. You heard the girls sing the words earlier on. Nid dwi'n gofyn bywyd moethus. It's allegedly Daniel James who wrote the words. He used to enjoy his pint and a cigarette, and he was in the King's Head in Morriston. He used to sit on a high stool, and he would exchange pieces of poetry for his friends in exchange for a pint. And it is alleged that the words for this wonderful, wonderful hymn was written on the back of a cigarette package. Now, how much truth's in that? But it's a wonderful story. It's been embraced by rugby crowds, football crowds. Only Boys Allowed, you may have heard of them. A group of young men from South Wales, and they went on Britain's Got Talent. And Simon Cowell, in all his glory, said, "Oh, I've never heard that song before. Where's he been? He hasn't been to Australia, he hasn't been to Zeeland Newydd, and he certainly has been to Wales." I'm going to be presumptuous here because I'm in charge. This is the only time when Helen asks me a question and I answer, she says, "What?" It's not because she hasn't heard what I've said. She's given me a chance to change my answer. Darling. So what I'm going to ask is, please can you sing the chorus in Welsh every time? Yes? Would you like to just sing the chorus for me? Give us a chord, please. Calon. Now you know why I'm conducting and not singing. Okay, so let's just hear this Calon Lan. In, down. Okay, boys.
Spirit of life, come to us.
Wonderful. Please sit down. Oh, wonderful. Please sit down.
Spirit of life, come to us to break down barriers, to widen horizons, and to make us less judgmental. Help us to see the wider picture and the kinder conclusion, to love and let live, to embrace and to care. Help us to reach out to our better selves that we may love more and hate less, care more and reject less, that bound together by understanding we may sustain each other through joy and happiness and through sickness and health. Help us, Spirit of life, to be joined with a common purpose of hope and fulfillment. Renew and revive us as we seek a common ground for one and all. Now is a time for silent reflection, and I offer the Taizé hymn played by our organist here in Melbourne. Stay with me. Love is the spirit of the church, and service is the law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. At this time, there would normally be information regarding offering, and while I do suggest that you offer your time and talent and reach out to one another and those with spoken or unspoken need, the practical information for offering will also be made available. And with that covenant as my guide, I offer an unusual message in diversity. This isn't quite the diversity in everything message that I had intended to write, but it is from the heart, and I think it works. Last time we got together, we took a journey back to my home in a car. Today we're going to step outside my home with a friend of mine, Lola, the Labradoodle. For some background, we have always been a 2-cat and 2-dog family, at least, sometimes more. Sometimes a lot more. But when we came to Australia, we were faced with some difficult decisions. One of our dogs was elderly, and so my parents asked if Mia could stay with them. That was where she had joined our family, and where she was blissfully happily running around. We call it the Pomeranian 5000. She would make laps around the barn. She loves racing around in the north woods of Wisconsin as only a perfectly spoiled dog on 100 acres can, with heated floors for winter and cool stone floors for summer, and a routine that Mia has known all her life. The other dog, Luna, was younger, and we eventually made a deal with a family friend. Luna would go to live with them in Las Vegas for 3 years, and we would take their dog, Abby, when our friend went to teach in China for 3 years. Luna was a foster fail before the pandemic, and our friend won't be going to China anytime soon. Not only have Luna and Abby, his dog, bonded, but our friend's daughter also bonded with Luna too. The cats, however, came to Australia with us, and while we were waiting for them to depart the U.S., I volunteered at an animal shelter, and another cat joined us. The cats, needless to say, are not overly thrilled with this visiting friend of ours. Lola is not our dog. My friend Polly and her family returned to the UK without enough notice to get Lola there at the same time. So Lola moved in with us. She has been thoroughly spoiled as well and has been having a grand time. And she certainly has demonstrated to us that while I am a cat person, my husband is most definitely a dog person. And in spite of the cats voting in no uncertain terms, I suspect a dog will re-enter our home in the not-too-distant future. I've known a lot of animals. When we lived in Tbilisi, the Republic of Georgia, we had a group of people who contributed financially to what we called alien abductions. A couple of us would catch the cats on the streets, and they'd be whisked away, probed, and returned to their homes. Hundreds of cats were spayed and neutered this way. We also fostered almost 100 animals in those 3 years, every single one of them rehomed in the United States by way of State Department employees who were traveling out for ordinary temporary duty and then being asked to, and being willing to, check a dog as excess baggage to be met by their forever family in D.C. We had to adjust to a lot of behaviors, teach routines and manners, learn and teach how to be functioning members of a household and part of a community. And they were all different. There's only one that I wish we had not rehomed, but we learned so much each time. We can't do this in every place we live, and it makes my husband a little bit crazy. But I've definitely got a streak of crazy when it comes to animals. When I was little, I lived 4 blocks from the zoo in my hometown. It was free, and we regularly played there. When I was 6, I snuck around the backside of one of the exhibits and pet Caroline's tail. Caroline was a snow leopard. Her tail is her glory, a rudder, a counterweight, and as long as she is, and a magnificent product of adapting to a need. You see, Caroline, were she in the wild, needs to chase prey that can scamper along the sheer sides of mountains like squirrels scamper in trees. Her needs have made her an ideal predator in her environment, and because she is a cat, she can adapt to other environments as well, although her tail would be a liability in the jungle. Cats are obligatory carnivores. They must eat meat. They can't eat anything else. But to diversify, they're generalists when it comes to environment. I've met other predators up close and personal. I was a carnivore tracker in Wisconsin, which is how predators are counted in the winter. I was walking along a logging road with my gear all bundled up, following the track of a very large wolf. He was walking along the shoulder of the road in the snow. It was not silent. The susurrus of snow and ice, the wind, the birds, not quiet. But at one point it went silent. The tracks had split. I was not following one wolf. I was following two, and one had just turned left. I did what I was supposed to do and backed up to a tree and stood still. And I stood in what now seemed like utter silence until the birds decided that everything had been quiet long enough. And at that point, directly across the road from me, snow slid off of a tree branch above her and thumped her on the nose, and she sneezed. Wolves are smart. They are an indicator of a healthy ecosystem because at the base, what they need to survive is diverse, broad and wide, and not able to be impacted by a single disease, weather event, or human challenge. I've worked in zoos, veterinary clinics, rescue facilities for big cats, and animal shelters. All of these places teach me more about interconnected relationships, respect, care, compassion, and love. I recommend to people all the time, care for something living, whether it's a plant, a sourdough mother culture, a cat, a dog, or a fish, because nurturing life feeds life, and it helps us heal. Life has lessons in diversity across the board. You can't treat all your plants like an orchid. You can't treat them all like a philodendron. Each of them has different needs, and those needs help us heal. We've learned that having a niche is important. There must be something that we do well and enjoy. But we are also taught that variety is really, truly the spice of life. Too little and systems begin to fail. It doesn't matter if we're talking about digestion or global economies. And this is an important lesson to learn, diversity. It's important economically so that an individual or a nation is not put into worse circumstances by being so dependent on one thing. It's important in terms of religion. We're theologically richer when we are respectful of many and not so insistent that the one that we have is correct to the exclusion of all others. Politically, we recognize that there's not a left or a right, but a huge span that extends to the left and to the right. We are learning that ways of eating, learning, loving, and living are not either-or circumstances, but are as diverse as people themselves. It makes our life richer. And even if the taste is a bit uncomfortable initially, we can take the risk. We can try it and be surprised when we're nourished by it. I have been so nourished by the friendships I've found in this life of a global nomad, both human and animal. Polly, Lola's human, and I met when our husbands were both serving their respective governments in Tallinn, Estonia. When I found out that we were coming to Melbourne, Australia, I was delighted because Polly was already here. We will remain friends our entire lives, I am certain. And by friends in this case, I mean someone that I could call upon and say, can you watch my dog for an unspecified amount of time while I try to figure out where we're going to live and how we're going to land? And I know she would say yes. Life is like that. We meet in strange places. Some are stranger than the other, and with some people it clicks. You stick for life. And it works that way whether we're talking about animals, people, places, and sometimes, yeah, even things. I'll write Polly real snail mail letters on onion skin paper to reduce the weight, and we will follow each other's adventures on Facebook and chat. And now it's bittersweet. Lola is off to her family, an adventure in the making for one of the sweetest animals I have ever known. She'll adjust to the new way of living, the new walks, the new neighborhood, and the new neighbors. And for a dog, diversity is new smells, and some of them are the delightfully stinky stuff to roll in and enjoy. So go, enjoy the diversity around you, cultivate the diversity within you and among you and around you, even the stinky stuff.
The first verse and the last verse of Come Rhondda number 5. Guide me, O thou great Jehovah. On your feet, boys and girls. Don't let me down, band, after that big build-up. Diolch, Chris.
Gathered in our varied faiths, we give thanks for the blessings of the world community as we share our common dreams. Homes and schools where children thrive. Neighborhoods that are safe and clean. Cities cities rich in colors and cultures, an economy where no one is expendable, a beloved community where rich and poor alike have access to the opportunity for a dignified and productive life. Churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples where our hope is to be of service in a hurting world. Enable us to carry forth this prayer into the coming week, turning our thoughts towards charity, our hearts towards justice, and our hands towards the work of peace. Rahu, Hethoch, Paz, Esekapuka La, Mir, Shalom, peace. Amen. Blessed is the dark in which dreams are stirred and are revealed. Blessed is the dark of earth where seeds come to life. Blessed are the depths of the ocean where no light shimmers the womb of earthly life. Blessed is the light into which we awake, the light that sparkles on the waters, that calls the tree forth from the seed and calls the shadows forth. Blessed are we as we move through the darkness and through the light.